This is a story we're going to close with. It's about an encounter Jesus had with another gentleman who was aching for compassion. It's one of my favorite stories in the whole Gospel of Mark. And a leper came to him, imploring him, and kneeling said to him, "If you will, you can make me clean." Moved with pity, he stretched out his hand and touched him and said to him, "I will be clean." Now, that phrase at the beginning of verse 41, moved with pity, it might read moved with compassion in your translation. Some translations say he was indignant about the leper's disease. That phrase, moved with pity or moved with compassion or he was indignant about, comes from one word in the original text in the Greek. The word is splagnizomai. The root word there in Greek is splagna. It's where we get the English word spleen from. What Mark is trying to explain is that when Jesus saw this man who was afflicted with leprosy, he didn't feel superficial compassion. He didn't see him and think something along the lines of, "Wow, that is one nasty case of leprosy. Poor guy needs to get himself a good dermatologist." That was not the response of Jesus. Instead, our tender Savior was moved from his guts. He had a visceral response to this man's pain, which is especially significant when you consider what it was like to be a leper in the first century. Some of you may know that according to the Mosaic or the Levitical law, a leper was considered ceremonially unclean. That means they are cut off from well society. According to the law, the Jewish law that they were living under, this man is not allowed to be around well people. He is segregated to a leper colony, forced to live alone. That's why he's outside the city gates. He's not allowed inside the city. It is forced upon him by law, incumbent upon him, to dress in rags and to leave his hair unkempt, so that if any of us were hard of hearing, the well people during that era, he would be unmistakable even from a distance based on his dress, that he was unclean, that he was an untouchable. If he got close to well people, it was incumbent upon a leper to cry out, "Unclean, unclean," again, so that we would hear him, so that we wouldn't make the mistake of getting close to him and thus possibly contracting leprosy ourselves. It's a highly communicable disease. So given the fact that this man is physically deformed, he likely had skin hanging off in shreds. He was emanating probably a putrid stench because of the rotten flesh. Because he had lost most of his soft tissue, he probably was missing at least part of his nose, part of his ears, part of his lips. Physically disfigured, socially stigmatized and cut off. He sees Jesus and said, "Lord, if you wanted to, you could heal me." And moved with compassion from his core, splagnizomai, from the guts of Jesus, he said, "Oh, I'm willing." And then Mark tells us he reached out and he touched the man, and then he healed the man. Y'all, the chronology in this story, it is just, it's amazing. If you really think about that chronology, while that man was still physically diseased, horrible to look at, much less hold, Jesus held him, and then he healed his physical body. It's like Jesus was saying, "You matter to me. I love you exactly the way you are. You don't have to clean yourself up to come to me." It is this amazing illustration of the compassion of Jesus.